Hi everyone. Starting a little later than I planned, but that's okay. Life, is busy and you can never tell what's going to happen or slow you down. So today's recipe is Nashville Chicken. It's from one of Pampered Chef's Season's Best recipe books. It's excellent. My daughter and I love it. I've made it a few different ways with this, slight alterations. So you'll see here that today it will be slightly different than maybe the recipe is that I posted up on Facebook. On Facebook I will attach the link to this post in case you haven't subscribed to me yet and should on YouTube. I'm trying this out. This is my first time recording live on YouTube, so we'll see if this is better than the luck I was having previously. So Nashville chicken. I'm doubling the recipe today. It usually calls for 1 pound of chicken tenders. I'm going to do 2 pounds of chicken tenders, therefore everything on the recipe list that you see doing will be doubled. So I don't know if any of you that did tell me you were going to watch today went out and bought the ingredients, but if you didn't and you're not making it with me today, you should definitely make it in the future. It's delicious. So here is my 2 pounds of chicken already cleaned, ready to go. And also to work with the chicken, I'm going to make kind of a marinade and let the chicken tenders sit in it for a few minutes while we make the coleslaw that goes on top of our sandwich. So typically we would use 2 tablespoons of pickle juice. I'm going to, of course, double that and use 4. I prefer to use my own canned pickles that I make myself, but you can use any kind of dill pickle juice that you may have at your house. So I'm going to quick do that. I've added in my bowl here. That's number 3. And 4. Next, I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of chili powder, again doubled in the recipe. I always have a handy dish rag with me because I like make a little bit of a mess. Chili powder. And if you like things like a little less spicy, you can use a little less cayenne or chili powder. Whatever's to your liking. My daughter doesn't so much like anything spicy, and I made it the recipe the original way, and she was fine with it. So I don't know if that can help you gauge a little. That's 1 tablespoon. And of course I'm using Pampered Chef's nesting spoons along with their mixing bowls, because I am a consultant of Pampered Chef, so I try to use and promote what I sell. And I use them all the time, not just for shows. Okay, so that's my chili powder. I'm also going to use 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. That kind of helps to cut the chili powder and cayenne a bit and make it a little sweet. It calls for 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, so I'm going to use probably 1.5 instead of the 2, because even though I'm doubling the recipe, again, like I said, my daughter's a little bit sensitive when it comes to heat. Next, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of paprika. We love our paprika. I'm going to pause just for a second on my marinade, and I'm going to show you quickly the grill pan, Pampered Chef's grill pan, their new one. They just came out with it in March in their new catalog. And one of the cool new features, I'll come a little closer, is that the handle removes. And it's pretty easy. You push this little button and I just did it like 6 times. So there we go. And you just take it off. It's better for storage. It's also for if you want to pan sear something, grill something, and then throw it into the oven to finish cooking through. It's perfect for that. So you can store your handle right inside your grill pan in your cabinet, and then you don't have this annoying handle in your way flopping around or making your storage less compact. So this really helps out a lot of our customers. So what's also really cool is the grill press that is from the older model of the grill pan. Fits in this one as well. So that's a nice feature. You don't have to buy a separate one. I'm just going to start this on medium heat. When you use a double or the single grill pan, it's good to heat up for 3 to 5 minutes before you start using it, so that way you can heat up the grate on the press. So that way you equally distribute the heat through your chicken or whatever else you might be cooking. Alright, so I left off by adding in my paprika. Next I need a little bit of salt. It calls for half a teaspoon, so I'm going to do a whole teaspoon because of course doubling. You can add a little pepper if you want to. I tend not to because I already have the cayenne in there, and a little bit of pepper does go into the coleslaw. So I'm going to quick mix this up. And I'll show you it is kind of thick. But we want to marinate that chicken for 3 to 5 minutes before we get it into our grill pan. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my chicken. I don't know how many of you have the large chef's tongs. I absolutely love these because they do lock in place. And when you go to use them, when you tilt them as if to use them, putting them in the pan, if you give a little squeeze, it lets go of the locking mechanism, and then you can open up your tongs. I used to hate that when I would go to put them down, it would fling whatever I was cooking or using all over the place. So when you hold them upright again, you again close them just a little bit, and then they go back into the locking position. So that's kind of cool. They also have a small set that I'll be using soon with the coleslaw when we mix it together, so you can see the difference in sizes. So again, I'm using 2 pounds of chicken instead of 1. And again, now I can place this in here, and it's going to stay in there and not fling my juicy chicken all over the place. So I'm just going to mix this along, get a good coating on here. And about when this is ready, the grill pan will be ready. So good timing is everything. So again, just mixed up that chicken, giving it a good coating, and that way it will have that flavor running all through the chicken. Can't wait. So while that's marinating, we're going to continue with making coleslaw. I did start cutting up my coleslaw, my cabbage, and carrots just a little bit because I didn't want it to take too long dicing up my vegetables. So I am using a whole cabbage. I slice it in half, and then I take my favorite Sentoku knife from Pampered Chef, the 5-inch, and I cut just a small triangle where the core is, so that way I can just pull that right out because I don't use the core in my coleslaw, as most of you wouldn't. Then I'm just going to use the same knife, and I'm actually going to quarter the half because I like smaller pieces of cabbage in my coleslaw. Some do it depending on what thickness you like. Some people like a little bit more coarse slaw. I like it pretty fine. So again, I'm just going to cut up sometimes when I have my daughter helping, when we get to the end, because she's a little more fearful of the knife, I'm kind of happy about that, we kind of throw the ends into a pot and just boil them and have them with dinner. So that's half of what I have to cut. And again, just do it the thickness you prefer. We like it more fine than thick. I mean, I'll eat it anyway, but especially on a sandwich, I like when it's a little bit thinner slices of cabbage. All right, perfect. Kylie really likes, that's my daughter, Kylie really likes a lot of carrots in her coleslaw. So I tend to put 2 to 3 large carrots, sometimes 4, depending on the size of them, into my coleslaw. I can't imagine if I actually did this for 3 carrots on a live show. You guys would probably get tired of the silence, because although we know, if you know me, that I like to talk and I can fill the air with plenty of verbiage, even I get a loss for words sometimes, and then I start saying and I hate that. So this is the 3rd carrot that I'm putting in here, just so you have an idea. I've done 2 already to kind of keep the show intact. And I'll do my best not to fling it all over the counter, but as you can tell, it's not always the easiest. So my grill pan is probably heated up pretty well by now. So I'm going to get my chicken on soon and then finish up the coleslaw while the chicken is cooking. And I hope you're starting to salivate, because I know I am. And if you're driving, like my friend Michelle might be driving right now, I hope you're not watching, but you'll watch later and let me know how I did. All right, I'm going to stop for now with my carrot, pick up the little bit I have on the counter. I did, of course, wash my counter before I started. That would be disgusting if I hadn't. All right, so I'm going to carefully remove my grill pan press. What's really nice is the handle does not get overly hot, so you don't have to worry about it burning you. And I'm just going to place my chicken in here. And 2 pounds of chicken will fit in here easily without too much of an issue. Just to give you an idea of how much it holds. I do have the double grill pan, which I love, especially when you have recipes that are going to be grilling more than one item. This recipe calls for you to grill the bread, but I already toasted it earlier, so that way I could do that prior to the show. Just going to make sure I get all that yummy goodness of the marinade in here. I don't want to waste any. And then I don't want my grill press to cool off too much, because I do want it to sear both sides, even though you will flip them halfway through. I want to get them on there quickly. And we're just going to leave that for about 3 minutes on one side, and then I'm going to turn them over and do them 3 minutes on the other side. Of course, if they need a little longer, I will make sure my chicken is not undercooked. I don't want to kill anyone with my recipes. That would be bad. I think my next show live would be me in handcuffs. I prefer that not happen. All right. So again, you can adjust the recipe to your likings and your family's likings. You know, I always tend to. I find a recipe that I really like, and then as I make it, I change it. And what tends to happen is as I stop looking at the recipe itself, and I look back like a year later, almost making a new recipe because I don't follow them that often. I like to kind of make what I like and change it often. But that's, I guess, why I became a pampered chef consultant. Plus, Betty, my consultant at the time, was nudging me for about a year. And finally I said, all right, I'll do it. So if you have any questions on how you can become a consultant or you want to host a party, please just send me a message. My Facebook page is Pamper the Chef and You with Melissa, as is this YouTube channel. So I'm hoping that my subscribes increase and I get some new likes on Facebook. That would be great. Promote my business a little bit. All right, we still have about a minute on that chicken. I am going to turn it up just a little bit because I heard the sizzle reduce. That's because there's more liquid forming in the pan. And I want to make sure that they're going to cook up nicely and get those grill marks on there. All right, so for my dressing for the coleslaw, I use about 3/4 of a cup to a cup of mayonnaise. You have to realize that this is a whole cabbage and three carrots in this one. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot of mayonnaise, it disperses over the whole entire bowl, so you don't have to worry too much. And I always have lots of fun mixing this. You'll see in a second. I tend to use a smaller bowl than necessary. I don't know why. Just one of those things. So there's my heaping 3/4 of a cup of mayo. With that, I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of vinegar. White vinegar is good. To balance that out, I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of sugar. That gives you that little bit of sweet and little tart flavor at the same time. And then I'm going to use about 1/3 of a cup of milk. That helps make the dressing go a little further. You'll notice I'm also using Pampered Chef's nesting measuring cups. Love them too. They fit nicely in the cabinet because they all nest inside each other. It's 1 a 2 cup and a 3 cup measure. They actually have a 1/4 cup measure too, but that doesn't come in the same package when you purchase them. That's the baby one, the mini. But do love them. All right, before I go to mixing, I'm going to flip my chicken. Ah, smelling delicious. Looking yummy. Now, if when you cook this, and you're doing it for the first time and you're not really sure how spicy you like it or not, you can always add a little bit more brown sugar onto the chicken in a bowl when there's still some marinade on it. The liquid will help it become a little bit more sweet if you add just a little bit more in there. If you find that you've seasoned it too much, that's not a problem. There's always a way to correct it. The other thing that I do that the recipe doesn't call for, and I'll do it shortly, is I add in a little bit of lemon juice into the mixture, which then also cuts the sharpness of the chili powder and the cayenne if that's not really your thing. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this. Now, usually when I make coleslaw, I make it the day before and let it sit because then the liquid from the vegetables and the milk and the other seasonings with the mayonnaise kind of meld into one, and the flavor is a little stronger. But because I wanted to do it live, I didn't want to do it ahead of time because then I feel like I'm cheating you guys from seeing how simple it is to make coleslaw. Also, this recipe calls for you to put the lemon in the coleslaw. However, I don't do this either. I actually, like I just said, put it in with my chicken. And the reason for that is I don't put lemon juice in my coleslaw regularly. And this big bowl of coleslaw will definitely outlive how much chicken we're going to be having. So if we want to eat it with something else, I don't really like the lemon flavor in the coleslaw. So now that I've got this wet with my milk and vinegar and mayonnaise, I'm going to add in some lemon to my chicken, and then into this I'm going to just add the salt and pepper necessary to taste. It's again however you like it. I'm going to add this first into my chicken. This is the citrus press. If you don't have one, get one. So this is about half a lemon I'm just going to put in here. And then I'm going to put my press back on and just reduce the heat because it looks to me as though my chicken's fully cooked. So I don't typically measure my salt and pepper, but I'm going to kind of give it a whirl here. I would say I probably put 3/4 of a teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt in this large, medium mixing bowl from Pampered Chef. So I'm putting about 3/4 of a teaspoon. And I'm getting out a little piece of pasta that I keep in my salt to keep it from clumping. You can use that or you can use rice if you didn't know. And then I'm going to put probably a half a teaspoon of pepper. And again, if you have somebody that loves pepper, you can add a little extra. My daughter tends to not like it much at all. She doesn't add it into any of her food. It almost scares her when she sees it on a meal as she yells hey from the living room. So I just put a little, and whoever's eating it can always add some more in. But you'll notice already maybe, I don't know if you can see it from there, that the vegetables are starting to get nicely coated with the marinade. Much more wet than when I first started. I don't know if you can see it glisten a little bit. And that's what you want. If you find that it's not liquidy enough, I usually like to test it by seeing if there's some liquid in the bottom of the bowl. And that's what I was just doing, even though you couldn't see me. If there's some liquid in the bottom of the bowl, I know by tomorrow there's going to be even a little bit more. And that's what you want. That way when you mix it, you know that it's going to be nice to eat. I don't know if that made sense, nice to eat, but delicious. All right, so that's all done. My chicken looks like it's good to go. So I'm going to show you how we put this together. I already toasted, as I said, some bread. I have like a little hoagie or a club roll. I toasted, that's regular bread. My daughter and I are gluten-free, so I also did some gluten-free bread. So depending on what you like, your preference, make sure you have what you need. So it says to call for putting some of the marinade, or not the marinade, some of the dressing from the coleslaw onto your bread. I don't do that. Again, a little minor change. I just take a little tiny bit of mayo and I just barely coat each side of the bread. because there is enough in the coleslaw, but this kind of helps the chicken, you know, stay in place. I don't know why, but I just find I have less shift when I add a little bit on. But don't put too much, because then you're going to just have a real slippery mess of a sandwich. I always do my gluten-free first. That way I don't contaminate too much. We do not have celiac. We just choose to be gluten-free for other various reasons. And we feel better digestively when we don't eat it. All right, so enough said about that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my chicken, and you'll see there's a lot of juice there. I'm going to not use those. I'm going to use this. I'm going to just place a piece of chicken or two onto my hoagie roll. And onto my bread. Yummy, delicious. And they say to put the pickles on top, but I tend to put them in the middle because I like to add a little bit more pickle juice onto my sandwich, even though it's already in the marinade. So then again, make this your own. Put what you like on it. Some people might like to do like the pepperoni peppers, banana peppers instead. You could do that too. Gives it a little different flavor. You could probably use that juice instead of the pickle, but we like pickles instead. Kylie doesn't like the peppers at all, so I stay away from those. And I am a pickle fan, so we're going to put lots of pickles on. And now I'm going to layer with my coleslaw. And you can put a nice hearty amount. This is a messy sandwich, so definitely use a fork to get all the excess that you actually, when you're trying to shovel this in, drop onto your plate, because you will want every bite to be gone. You want to eat it all. And plus, the messier the better. That's how I feel. And like I said, I'm just going to add a little bit extra pickle juice on here because we like pickles. Put the top on. And again, I'll show you so you can see how beautiful this looks on a plate. If you're having guests, you can make these ahead of time, you know, not too far ahead because you don't want them to get soggy. That's also why I like to toast my bread instead of grill it. And there you have it. Regular hoagie and gluten-free bread. I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it a little better. You can always put some pickles on the side if you really like more pickles, or some chips to go with it. And that's it. Bon appetit. I'm going to take a quick bite because I'm a little hungry and I do love this recipe. Absolutely delicious. So, tell me what you think of today's show. If you're on here for the first time, please subscribe. That way you get notifications when I'm on YouTube. And I look forward to joining you again and having you here in my kitchen with me again next week. Have a good week, everyone.